Hi, my name is Amelia Perry Pinto, and this is my self-evaluation for the class of New Media Tools. So in this class, I had the chance to learn about 6 different programs from the Adobe Creative Cloud and the basics on how to use them, which will hopefully help me move forth in other projects that I may need to either create a logo, maybe in Illustrator, or just edit an image for any reason, or even create a video like this one. I believe I put all my effort into every single project. I made sure that I went above and beyond every single one, especially on my digital story, in which we had to not only use images to portray our story and do the voiceover, but I also wanted to make sure that if I could do anything to make the images more engaging, I would. For this, I actually learned to use some other programs, some other tools within the programs that we were using, like Photoshop. Even though this was a week prior to the one where we started to work with Photoshop, I learned how to make an image move from scratch and make a still image move, which was quite an experience for me, especially since I had never used Photoshop prior to this. So that was probably my biggest achievement, and I feel most proud of that, as I never thought I would be able to do something like that. But in the end, by making sure I could do my best in every single project, I learned several things that were not only part of the curriculum, but some others that were not even part of it. And I think that was something that was very good for me, and that will hopefully make me want to learn more about these platforms and not just stay with the knowledge that I gained from this class. Since I started working on all these separate projects, I really wanted to learn more about Photoshop, especially since I've seen lots of people use it on a daily basis, and I know people that are really good with Photoshop. And I was never that kind of person. I was actually sort of a deer in headlights when I saw that I had to work with Photoshop, and after investigating a bit more about it and inquiring more about how all the several features that this program has, I ended up learning more than I would have done if I would have just stayed within the normal parameters of the project, which was really fun to do. So if I would have had more time, I would have loved to probably make more of the images of my digital story more engaging, as I only stayed with a few, just making them move, or making them a cinematography. So I would have loved to have more time to maybe just not limit this to just 2 of the 16 images, but to make at least half of them move, which would have been a lot more interesting, and it would have been a bigger challenge. But I did find that it was really hard to go above those 2 images without just with the time limit that we had, since it was pretty difficult just to learn things that weren't part of the program, like the Photoshop making the image move. So it was pretty hard to be looking out for tutorials and actually going forth and doing so with not the same image as the tutorial like we were doing in class, but with different images, and learning how to do different things and how it worked differently with the image that I was using. So that was like the hardest part, I would say. But if I would have had more time, I would have loved to make more images more engaging, whether it was using alpha channels or just working with them on Photoshop to make them move if they weren't moving images, or to actually explore different things for them. But other than that, I thought the time limit was pretty good for each of the projects, especially since it was not only a time limit for it wasn't a time limit just to create the project, but to actually have the time to fail if you did, and to restart if you had any issues that you would need to do so, which I had in a couple of them. And I thought the time frame was just necessary for you to learn from your mistakes, which was something pretty positive. Lastly, I do see this as a very good experience for me, not only to prove myself that these programs are not something that are as intimidating as I thought they were in the beginning, um, and that I can definitely start working with them, and if I start just playing around with them, I can make different things happen, and I could definitely use that to my professional advantage, whether it's in work if I ever need to do a poster for a band, or if I need to create something to help pitch an idea. I can definitely do so with these programs now that I know the basics of how to use them. Or even for my next class, which I know is Project and Portfolio 3, in which I will have to make a music video, learning how to use Premiere Pro and Audition at the same time in order to learn how to duck the music, or how to add the effects to the audio on the actual video that you're editing on Premiere Pro would be definitely something will be something that I will be using probably next month. So it definitely is something very useful for music business in general, and just for anything that you will need a little more experience on the Creative Cloud, and just to get started with them, even if it's just a head start to just learning the basics, and then to move forward into understanding more deeper what each of the tools mean and how you can use them to create separate things. And even like the really obscure, like the timeline for Photoshop, which is not something you usually know. You would never think to do a video on Photoshop, but now that I've started to look more into these programs, I've learned a couple of more things that will probably make a difference between someone that knows just the basics and someone that just starts looking into programs to learn more. Thank you so much for listening.